this is part of like, how did we all get here? Again, chaos, lawlessness at the border. There was no legitimate solution, democratic solution that was accepted by the American people for the democratic view of illegal immigration under the Biden administration. People agreed with deportation. I still think people agree with deportation. The question has to be about law and order. And this is also where, I mean, I don't know, I'm curious where you think things are going. Because let's be honest, abolish ICE in 2018 was a political disaster. It was a disaster. I think it's actually very interesting. I have not seen that sort of rhetoric re-emerge, even in the midst of where we, to be honest, you're probably more legitimate saying it today than ever before, right?
I have seen it and I support it.
Okay, but let's all sit with that. That all seemed like the hot, thing to do in 2018. And so what happened? Oh, ICE is fascist, deportation, etc. So now let's flood the country with 10 to 15 million illegals and you're going to lose the election. So that's my question here is about like, what are legitimate law and order solutions to this? Because at the same time, let's be honest here, a huge amount of the left supports like actual violence against ICE. That doesn't mean that they should be wearing masks or acting totally out of control. You don't become the enemy of my enemy. You don't become the mirror image of what we should criticize.
Yeah.
But this kind of leads everybody to dig in and say, hey, let's be real. 2017 to 2020 was fucking crazy. BLM is burning shit down. You have ICE and Antifa literally throwing rocks and shit at ICE agents, which again, let's be real, people actually, I would say by and large, it's like a leftist coalition that supports that. How do we get ourselves out of this? I mean, because what's the inverse? Abolish ICE? Like, okay, good luck. I mean, I don't see it. Kids in cages, crocodile tears, whenever Obama was doing the same thing, like it all reeks to me of the same kind of pushback narrative, and then we're just gonna come right back here. Because that's what I would say. I would say we're here today because of the failures of the center, largely the center left, and of the far left's overreach on immigration. They are largely to blame for American public opinion shifting this far. Now, of course, there's agency in the Trump administration, et cetera. But as you just said, you need to grapple with the fact that a huge portion of the public is like, no, we're fucking done. All this empathy and all of that got what? Mass illegals here in the country. We can't have that. Most people agree with that, I would say, broadly in saying like it was a totally out of control situation.
I think
like, how do we dig ourselves out of this?
Is wildly up for grabs on immigration. And the swings,
but to what extent? Under Biden?
The swings that we've seen just since Trump was elected are truly wild. I mean, he is dramatically underwater on immigration now. And you're right, it was one of his strongest issues coming in. My perspective is different in terms of how we got here. I mean, I see it zooming out. I see it more broadly as a failure of the center left to offer an alternative view of the world that is not about your problems are because of immigrants.
I hear this stuff all the time.
But that is the truth. It is the reality.
It's cold,
because
man.
The whole reason that this narrative has purchased is because you have people who feel like they are struggling in their lives. They feel like the world is past them. They feel like they're not able to get ahead. They feel like, inflation is, they're struggling to pay their bills. The grocery bills are, healthcare is expensive. Like, I don't know that my kids are going to be able to even have the life that I have. What is coming to? And they're looking for what went wrong. And Trump has a very clear, and the right broadly, but specifically Trump has this very clear narrative. And immigrants are central to it. They're not the only scapegoat, but that's central to it. And if you don't offer an alternative explanation, that people are going to gravitate towards that solution. But, when you say mass deportation, right? When I heard that, I'm not sure that I saw Black Hawk helicopters rappelling onto apartment buildings in Chicago, but I knew it would entail chaos. I knew it would entail infringement, not just on immigrants' rights, but on American citizens' rights, because it has to. Because if you're going to sort the immigrant from the non-immigrant, it is going to require surveillance and, it's going to require a heavy hand from the federal government. I think you would acknowledge that. So, like I said, I didn't envision kids naked, zip-tied together in U-Haul vans, but I knew it would be brutal. But I think for a lot of people, when they saw mass deportation, they thought like the criminals, right? And Trump consistently in this campaign, more than previously, portrayed undocumented immigrants as criminals. He talked about, they're emptying out the insane asylums. And so there was this image of the undocumented immigrant in general as being this criminal character, and we got to find him, we got to lock him up, we got to get him out of the country. And yes, people are on board with that. I'm on board with that. If you've got, someone who's a violent criminal, I don't want them in the country, even in my most expansive immigration view. But as the rubber has met the road and people see what it actually means, and you see, actually, Stephen Miller doesn't prioritize criminals. He prioritizes random dudes at Home Depot. He prioritizes random, migrants in an apartment building that like some slumlord is trying to get evicted. He is overtly told his law enforcement, whether it's ICE or others, that they need to stop wasting their time doing these complicated gang cases because that takes time to develop and that's more difficult casework, and just go for the numbers. So you have many fewer of the much smaller percentage of the immigrants who are in federal custody actually have any sort of criminal indictment than under prior administration. So in any case, it's a long way of saying that, I think you're right that when people actually see these images and grapple with what is being done in their cities, and they put it together with the other, crackdowns that are coming on speech and weaponization of the government and war on elected officials, Democratic elected officials in states and cities across the country, that they are broadly repulsed. Now, you're right, his approval rating basically where it's been.
Exactly the same.
Because people are it's not good. It's like 42%, something like that. People are very locked in with their views of Trump. But I do want to get to, we have some of those images just so people can see for themselves, some of the things that are unfolding. These are all from Chicago and Portland. So this is a sniper in an armored vehicle.
I think that's a pepper ball. That was one thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that was in Broadview outside of Illinois. This is also, this is actually Portland. And this is really important. I want you to notice not only this mass show of force all kitted up and look like stormtroopers, and then you got these camera guys. Bunch of camera guys.
There's a little too many cameras.
You got the iPhone dude, you got a couple of camera guys. This is Chicago PD that was actually tear gassed by ICE. So the local law enforcement, Chicago PD here, struggling after they were tear gassed by ICE. There was another incident where ICE tear gassed near an elementary school. The elementary school had to, cancel recess, keep everybody inside because of the random ICE tear gassing in their neighborhood. So it was incredibly heavy-handed tactics, even impacting elementary schools and police officials as well. And we have more images here. This is still more Chicago Police Department recovering from being tear gassed, which is just an insane situation. Actually, the Broadview, Illinois police chief says that they're getting fake 911 calls from ICE agents as well, and it's incredibly taxing to their resources. Here you have, a confrontation from ICE and protesters. I believe this is in Chicago. I had to double check, but I believe this is in Chicago, these scenes that are occurring. Again, this is before the National Guard comes in. This is for sure Portland. Those are snipers stationed on the rooftop, overlooking this area outside the ICE building where these protests were occurring. So this is some of what's, being done on city streets in
My
America.
thing is, I don't think this was inherent to mass deportation. I think this is genuinely a Trump thing. I don't think that this is necessarily how it would have to be.
It's like a Stephen Miller thing, to be honest.
It is genuinely a vision for them about division, which, let's be very real here. It has worked to their political benefit. We can read a poll all we want. Who knows? I mean, New Jersey's looking kind of close to me. I don't know if you've been looking at that. The New Jersey race, Republican could win in the state of New Jersey. Again, listen, roll the tape and make fun of me if he loses. It could be Gavin Newsom recall cope that I'm huffing right now, but it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. So let's be honest, also about the political dynamics. But to return to kind of something you were saying earlier, and this is where I see it, Graham Plattner going viral for people are being lied to. Guys, we live in a country with finite amounts of resources. To say it's a lie that massive amounts of illegals are not going to tax the system is ridiculous. It's ridiculous to say you can allow 10 to 15 million people into a country over a 4-year period and it's not going to have some crazy effect, especially when the absolute vast majority of them are non-skilled, don't speak any English, and are not going to integrate into our society on a very easy basis. If we just grant them all citizenship, every single one of them is going to be on welfare. And so the point is you can't just live in a world. Krystal, if 23% of the people enter the country illegally, don't speak English, and don't have a high school diploma, what's going to happen? They're going to end up on welfare. Look at the statistics of our own population in that group who end up on welfare. It's huge. Listen, not saying they're bad people. We got to take care of our own first. It is actually a world of finite resources. I mean, I know there was this whole discussion about ERs. Yeah, it's crazy that you allow all these people here illegally and they get hit by a car, by the way, with no insurance, and then who's all footing the bill in these PCR rooms. It's all of us.
Saagar,
they don't deserve my healthcare dollars.
But Saagar,
sorry.
That's the reason why you need an actual system that works, where you have
your system wants these people to have citizenship, and I say no.
I do, because
that's my
they
point.
are a net
exactly.
benefit to society. I mean, we have gone around this a million times.
But exactly, this is the fundamental question.
This is the strength of our country. They are a net benefit to society.
This is just Statue of Liberty quote. Like these people.
I do believe in the Statue of Liberty quote, by the way.
So again,
overwhelmingly, by the way, the American people agree with me. Ask them, even at the peak of anti-immigrant hysteria, people still said that immigrants are a net benefit to society.
Yes, because grouping all these people in together is preposterous.
Is there a limit? Yes, to the number of people that
so what's
can
the
come
limit?
in. Of course.
Yeah.
I don't know what the limit is, but I can tell you that we have the capacity to absorb a large number of people into this country. And if you have people out of the shadows, they're not having their labor rights abused and violated. They're not being undercut in terms of their wages. They're able to pay. And by the way, most undocumented immigrants, at least until now, were paying taxes. Now they're afraid that they're going to be like swept up in a deportation raid because
is it enough for the government services that they consume?
Yes, it is.
No,
yes,
no
yes,
chance.
Saagar, it
again,
is.
like,
go look at the studies. Don't just make stuff up.
I'm
look
not.
At the research.
Listen,
it is true. They contribute much more.
There are endless numbers
of society. There's no doubt about
forward.us studies to support many of these. There are also endless numbers of studies that show that
you just dismiss out of.
I mean, same with you. No, I mean, but this is the frustration. This is again how we got here. If the only option is mass citizenship, a lot of people are going to say, "Fuck it, then let's go with the Black Hawk helicopters."
No,
because if we're just going to have 10 to 15 million coming in here and they get to vote, absolutely not.
In the absence of an alternative vision, where you're saying, you know what, the problem isn't the immigrant, it's the billionaire, it's the people who are robbing you blind and rigging the system and stealing your electricity and hiking up your electricity
both of those
prices.
Can be true,
If you
I
don't
think both
have
of them
that
are
alternative vision, then yes, you're right. But then you do have a large number of people who say the problem is, the Venezuelan migrant who came in and they're stealing the housing or whatever, or they're eating the cats and the dogs. Yes, they will be open to that message, but it is not a correct message. And so if you actually have a vision on the other side that is compelling to people, that is the only way that you fight back against this. That's why I say that it is a center-left failure, yes, that led to this by offering no other explanation and broadly caving to the worldview of the Trumps. So that's how you end up with Stephen Miller and Trump and this truly fascist assault on cities and states and in communities and lawless chaos that is vastly more dangerous and more violent than anything that I've seen from any undocumented immigrant.
I just think that it very much absolves much of the far left who's forced every candidate to raise their hand and say we should have health care for all illegals.
We should have health care for everyone. I mean, that's the other thing.
So you think
and that's the other thing is, Saagar, no, that's the other thing is that when you have a neoliberal system where, yes, not everybody has health care. That is also going to make people much more receptive to, see that person who's showing up at the emergency room, they're getting health care and you're not.
I think
Which is why but that's why I support universal health care. That's why I support higher wages. That's why I support union rights. That's why I support universal pre-K. That's why I support affordable daycare, so that people don't feel this sense of we're all, it's every man for himself and we're all scrapping against each other, where people are doing fine and have the right to those resources themselves. Then they are much less likely to find the message of immigrant scapegoating to be appealing.
Again, there is not a single social welfare state in the world that exists with a massive open border and a legalized population. All of the welfare systems that you're describing have very tight borders. Norway, Scandinavia, Denmark, they have massive assimilative programs. For example, in Denmark, I mean, if that's the type of society you want, fine. Like in Denmark, they literally ban you, I believe, as children from wearing a hijab because they're like, hey, that's not who you are. If you're going to come here and you're going to get our services and you're going to be a citizen, then that's going to come with a huge number of responsibilities. I don't think most people would want to sign up for that. And so we live in a world of finite resources. You can't just have a system where everybody gets healthcare, including vast numbers of illegals. Like this is, again, I think that this message is deeply damaging. I see the Graham Plattners of the world going for it. Maybe it'll work in Maine. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, the rubber will meet the road with an actual proposal. And if you're just going to mass legalize and grant mass mass numbers of social services to people. I mean, first of all, I mean, in an unironic way, somebody does have to pay for it, like for real. It can't just be, quote, tax billionaires or whatever, because, I mean, with the way that our taxation structure works, it will have to ultimately come from some upper middle class and others. Like, it quite literally could not exist.
And actually tax the rich.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But that's under 60 people in the United States Senate. What's the practicality of what it looks like?
I'm not. Listen, you're in terms of the politics. Is it difficult? Of course, of course. But is it wildly popular? Of course, yes. If you ask people, should we cut the defense budget? Yes.
Free money
if you ask people, no, that's not free money. That's cutting the Defense Department budget. And then, yes, we just had a massive tax cut for the rich. Just give that back as a starter. You can't tell me that every other developed nation around the world can afford universal health care and we can't for some reason.
Oh, we absolutely can. I'm with you.
Of course we can. Of course
but I say my vision for that society.
The way that things are distributed is so wildly unequal. Even if we just did a little bit, we would be in such a better place. So in any case, to get back to the core of this thing, I mean, I think there is, listen, do I know what the political fallout will be? I don't. But the thing that scares me the most is you think that they believe this is political win. I think they don't care because I think they feel like they are really going for it right now. Like they are going for labeling Democrats as domestic terrorists, crushing dissent, surveilling social media. There's a story about how they're putting together a social media surveillance team using Palantir, scaring any sort of like comedian, installing Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief at CBS. I mean, they are going for it. And so in a sense, like obviously what's happening with ICE in these cities and with federal agents in these cities, obviously that is about immigration, but I also don't think it is mostly about, it is about more than immigration as well.
I don't disagree.
Because it really is a sort of all-out assault on our rights, on our First Amendment rights, on our ability to protest, freedom of association, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. Like all of those things are under attack right now, and it's by design.
I know the producers are going to be mad because I'm dragging this on, but I think this is the fundamental question of our day. If you were the left, how are you going to handle, if the Democrats come in power, wouldn't you do the same thing? At this point?
What do you mean?
So, I mean, look.
Would I send in the National Guard to Texas?
I mean, well, not that, but I mean, isn't Stephen Miller going to be prosecuted?
Well, he should be.
But see, this is my point.
No,
is
but
that
he's a criminal.
For them, but now we're feeding into the same culture of this is now it's going to be the same lawfare.
If you are violating people's rights. And you are breaking the law, do I think you should go to prison?
Yeah, but that's how they saw it under Trump, right? Is if January 6 prisoners are all, listen, I'm representing a worldview where you have liberal institutions which are assaulting us. You're trying to plug our children full of hormones. You have an all-out takeover of our institutions. You flooded our country with 10 to 15 million illegals. So fuck it, let's go for it. I mean, isn't that what the next Democratic administration, aren't you going to do the exact same thing? That's my view. Trump, JD, and all of them, all of their staff, good luck. You're going to be buried in legal paperwork and probably much more because the libs are actually good at it. If you're a red state, you're probably going to have your shit cut, right? This new popularization
I wouldn't say so.
I think so. I mean, if Gavin gets elected, for sure. Yeah.
I wish that I had the faith that you do, that Democrats are going to have the backbone to actually lock up the criminals that exist in this administration. I mean, these people who are pulling naked children out of their beds and being zip tied, yes, I think they should be in prison.
Come on. This works on the Republican side.
Especially
you let rapists into the country, you should be illegal. See, come on. Like this stuff does, this is the same mirror image.
Had the Biden administration procedure, you may not have liked it, but it was done by, these were legal provisions that allowed undocumented immigrants. Many of the immigrants who came in were through temporary protected status.
They impeached Mayorkas over it. You can come up with any novel explanation you want.
People have a right to apply for asylum. That is consistent with the law. You do not have a right to violate Americans, let alone immigrants, but Americans' due process rights. You do not have a right to pull children with no warrant out of their beds in the middle of the night and zip tie them together and throw them in a U-Haul van. You do not have a right to hold American citizens 3 days, no lawyer, no warrant, no phone call, no nothing. You do not have I mean, many of the some of the things that happened under Doge continue to have been deemed illegal. So yes, where criminal acts occurred, there should absolutely be accountability. There should absolutely be accountability. And I'm not going to buy this like whataboutism. Oh, well, the Democrats did things Republicans didn't. Like, yes, if they were criminal, yes, prosecute, fine, prosecute them.
Yeah, well, you could come up with, look, I mean, isn't that one of the lessons of this admin? Is that the government can come up with a fucking
But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you really think there was anything
No,
under the
I don't.
Biden
No,
administration that was
I'm with you.
equivalent
I'm with
to
you.
Black Hawk helicopters raiding an apartment building in the middle of the night and pulling out people? And I mean, just the lawlessness of
this
these
is the
ICE
disagreement.
agents and these
I think
mass
that the
chaos.
border was actually just as lawless. They impeached Mayorkas over it. It was a genuine criminal act at a political level. I mean, look, I could hit it back. Kavanaugh stops are legal now under the Supreme Court. I don't agree with it, but it is. Kavanaugh stop means that you can briefly detain a U.S. citizen for whatever period
racial
of time.
profiling.
Yeah, but it's legal. It's under the U.S. Supreme Court. So is it illegal?
Well,
no.
it was
Yeah.
on the shadow
You can say
docket.
it's bad, but
it was. I mean, it was on the shadow docket. It hasn't officially been ruled on the merits, but yes, it allowed them to proceed with overt racial profiling, which is insane and outrageous.
Right, but that's my point. And so they can come up with a justification for anything, right? Oh, it was all asylum. It's like, well, I don't say, not really. I'm only pointing out, though, that if that is going to be the posture of the Democratic base and probably of the next Democratic administration, then it is kind of a mirror image of each other. And so for them, I mean, they're not dumb. They can see all of this. In their mind, it was go time anyways. But if you're a Democrat, why wouldn't you now believe the same thing? So it seems to me like an endless race to the bottom. Like if Gavin Newsom gets elected, wouldn't you deny funding to Texas in a hurricane?
No,
You'd be like, fuck you. You came after
not.
me.
Absolutely
See, I think you
not.
would.
See, this is
Yeah.
I totally disagree with this.
Yeah.
As much as I despise the Trump regime, as much as I despise Stephen Miller, as much as I disagree with individual people who voted for Trump this time around, I want them to have healthcare. I want them to have preschool.
No, you
I
do,
want them
for sure.
to have, and this is the view of the left broadly. Right? Do I see it being an issue? Yes, Stephen Miller should be locked, that sort of stuff. Yes. We're going to go to war with Texas and deny people health care? No, I don't see that at all. I thoroughly reject that. I think that is anathema to any sort of politics that I would believe in whatsoever. And that is genuinely a race to the bottom. Now, No,
I don't question your sincerity at all. I mean, listen, I don't disagree with half of this stuff. But the level of vindictiveness I'm watching bubble about truth and reconciliation post-Trump, it almost makes me understand the Trump behavior more. Because for them, they're like, if we were already here, they have to go. Because to them,
I think
it's like
projection. I genuinely think that is projection of like the way that this administration operates on the Democratic base and Democratic lawmakers. And I mean,
so you think things will be back to relatively
Biden,
normal?
They didn't even get their act together to charge Trump with a coup in time for the thing to go to court. Right? That's who we're talking about here.
Yeah, but aren't you mad about that?
Yes, I'm mad about that. Yes, I am mad about that.
They wanted him to be prosecuted.
Yes, and he should have been.
Well,
he should have been.
This is where
but that's a different thing.
It gets
than saying
all
that
very sketchy.
Texas shouldn't get hurricane funding, or they should, the people of Oklahoma or wherever should be like screwed and there should be retribution against them and their funding pulled, which is things that this administration has done. Because, for example, Janet Mills in Maine said something he didn't like about transgender kids in sports. No, I don't. I can't say I see zero appetite for that, but that is not a widely held view whatsoever. And like I said, it's anathema to any sort of actual left kind of a politics.
I agree, but you're talking about the left and not the
politics.
Democrats. Because, see, I don't know. I think people are mad. And I see with the base, with Gavin, the way that people are, quote, fighting back. I think a lot of vindictiveness is coming. I mean, look, Trump, for all of his faults, he broke the glass on a lot of longstanding norms in politics. I still think this is the central question because it informs so much of the way that our current government is behaving. To them, they thought that the glass was broken under Biden, where yes, they incompetently indicted Trump or whatever, but they still indicted Trump. To them, that's like Banana Republic shit. So they're like, if we're going to open the door, then let's be Banana Republic, right?
Yeah,
and so that's all starting to become the feedback.
I'm sure they feel
I'm not even
that
justifying
way,
this.
but I'm just talking
as an
about
observer.
actual reality. Like Trump tried to coup the government.
Sure.
He should have been in prison. He should have been banned from running for election again. And so to equate that with I didn't like Biden's asylum policy.
Well, you're minimizing it because you don't disagree with the policy, right? I could flip it around. I mean, look, at the end of the day, like I opposed the impeachment or whatever of Donald Trump. I said you should leave it up to the democratic process. And I mean, it's more of an indictment of the Democrats for being unable to beat him in the election. It's just a question to me about once things are here, how can it possibly ever go back to normal? Because that's kind of what you're saying. I don't know if it can.
Well, I don't
that's
know
part
if
of the
there
reason I feel so
I don't know
despondent.
that there is a going
Once we're
back
here,
to normal.
we are not going back to the days of Biden. Like red state, blue state. I'm not saying we're gonna have a civil war, but we're definitely gonna have a lot more like authoritarian power in the federal government.
I mean, we're already at, when you're talking about Trump trying to send Texas National Guard into California, Oregon, Chicago, I mean, the only reason that's not a civil war is because the other side doesn't fight back.
Yeah,
That's how close to the edge we are. That's where we are.
Right. So why wouldn't that? That's what I mean. Isn't the logical conclusion? It's like, oh, well, people are going to start fighting back. I'm like, that scares the shit out of me. That's part of what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
With all of this, because everything is just getting dialed all the way up, and I don't possibly see an escape. Like if Stephen Miller thinks he's going to get indicted under a future administration, I mean, do you even want there to be a future administration?
No, but that's
right.
already what they're going. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's already what they're going for, and that's why I look at the mid. You know, I mean, I hope there's something approaching free and fair elections, et cetera. But I have no confidence that these people have any intention of giving up power.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why we should think that. We already have Trump losing and trying to not give up power, so we have a track record.
I could see how you would get there. I'm not there just because, I mean, at the end of the day, he did leave, right? And most of it was a LARP. Like 98, that's another thing that people vastly underestimate. 98% of this is, quote, LARPing, despite the fact that, look, it has serious ramifications, obviously for norms and all of that, et cetera. But I do think we should stick with this kind of debate and story because it's all I've been thinking about. I go, once we're here, can you possibly come back? I actually don't know. Like, can we come back from a world of like blue on red warfare, like literally in terms of states and state power and indicting your other political opponents? Everyone can debate endlessly about who started it or whatever. Every side is going to see theirs as entirely legitimate, even if you disagree. And it's honestly what scares me the most about where we are.
Well,
like
we
with
did
Illinois,
literally have a civil war and managed to put the pieces back together.
Oh, it took a long time. A lot of people died.
Time.
Okay, so it's not. It was. The more you read about that, the more you should be afraid of ever possibly getting there in the first place. Okay, should we get to the economy? Are we done?
Yes.
All right.
Well, to be continued. Probably.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show. Help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.